call the November 7th meeting of the Common Council to order. Will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Olson.
Here.
Counselor Bridge. Counselor Bender is excused. Counselor Stenberg. Counselor McDonald. Counselor Joyle. Counselor Finsland. Counselor Herrick. Counselor McKenzie. Counselor Brown. And Counselor Kadat.
Recognize no quorum. We'll proceed.
Item number 4 is approval of the October 14th, 2012 regular council meeting minutes.
For the motion and second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried. Before we proceed, I would like to take the opportunity to, on behalf of the Common Council and the people of Superior and the administration, to thank the city clerk's office and the volunteers at the polling places for the not just the excellent job that they performed for the city of Superior yesterday, but throughout this very trying year. I know there's been a lot of pressure on the city clerk's office over this entire year because of elections and recalls and so forth. They've been working under severe, I think, duress, and I want to publicly thank everybody for doing which great job you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Item number 5 is public hearings. 5.1 is the 2013 general fund operating budget.
What is a pleasure? I'm sorry. At this time, I'll call for a public hearing, and those that wish to speak in favor of may do so now. Those that wish to speak in favor of may do so now. And for the last time, those that wish to speak in favor of may do so now. Director Vito?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Before we go any farther forward, I thought I have a very important update that I thought may affect if there's anybody here to speak against the budget, and so I wanted to give an update on that. Without question, this budget year and this fall has, we've had a lot of changes in the budget that have been brought back to the council, and it's kind of been up and down and all around, and so we're at the final point tonight. We're at, for our public hearing, and this is the final step to allow us to keep going forward. The change I have is one that will probably make a number of people happy, that we do have a correction that we need to make to a prior year levy limit calculation that's carrying forward to this year, that is requiring us to reduce our levy by $114,000. So after all the debate and the discussion about a 3.8% levy increase, we're now looking at a maximum of 2.8 after this change. And at this point, when we're at the public hearing stage, we can't get by with just 6 votes to make any changes. We have to have 7. So what ultimately, after the public hearing and people speak, I would be asking you to approve lowering the levy by $114,000. And so it's not requesting a reapproval of the budget, it's just changing that levy line item. And we have recommended an offset on the expenditure side. It was, quite frankly, one of the quickest fixes that we could come up with, and that relates to the amount of annual funding that we transfer to our landfill. So the recommendation is to reduce that transfer to offset the levy decrease. And so that's all I had.
Those that wish to speak in favor of to do so now. Hearing none. Those that wish to speak in opposition may do so now. Those that wish to speak in opposition may do so now. For the final time, those that wish to speak in opposition may do so now.
Mayor.
Counselor?
This is not necessarily against the budget, but I think some discussion needs to be possibly listened to and some considerations. Before I get into that, though, piggybacking on your thanking the city clerk's office, I'd like to thank all of you that were involved during the flood stuff. every single one of you. Many of you have gone unnoticed, but to get to the point where we're going to be getting $11.6 million from FEMA for the flood relief in Douglas County is a great accomplishment, and the hard work that every one of you did, from the mayor on down to wherever the lowest person on the totem pole is. So that's great news for the city of Superior and Douglas County. So back to the budget. A lot of you know that I've been against it. I've been open about it, and I have my reasons for it. And the main reasons are for the people that I represent out in South Superior and the people that I represent in the city of Superior. When the budget first came out, I had talked to a lot of people about this, and the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is, you're going to raise our damn taxes again. And there's reasons for all of that. When I say I talked to a lot of people, I talked to 20 people that I have their names, and that's a lot, I believe, for a city councilor to talk to on a specific issue. Out of those 20 people, 2 people thought that it'd be just fine to raise our taxes. And they had their reasons, and they're viable reasons. But both of them are City of Superior employees. So it was hard to judge or weigh in on what people thought was right for themselves. The increase in their taxes, whether it be a 3.8 levy increase. We're going to be talking later on about stormwater fees. We're going to be talking about sewage fees. The county has come out with their levy increase, and the Board of Education has got theirs as well. So this is good news that we're able to drop this part down. But I did meet with some of the larger departments in their heads. Today was the last one that I had a meeting with 3 people, and some of my reasons, first of all, was that I don't like the way that we got the budget given to us at such a late time. I think that when we know ahead of time that we are not going to be getting any more shared revenue from the state of Wisconsin, that was clearly passed on to us by the governor. And I think that we should have started looking into preparing our budget from where it starts at the top down to each department. And I understand, and I'm not criticizing anybody's work. Let's get that straight. And I put that forward to the people I met with. But the fact is that when you bring it to 10 counselors and we have to try and figure it out, and we've got stuff set in front of us, these budgets are hard to read for those of you that don't do budgetary stuff. I happen to have to do that in my private sector work. I do my own budget. And I'm responsible for every expenditure, and I'm responsible for every revenue. And those have to match. We all know that in a budgetary system. So that was one constructive criticism, that I thought that if we go moving into 2014 now, it's not going to get any better. Money is not going to fall out of the sky from the state, and more so not from the federal government. So my ask is that we get done with this stuff today. We need to start looking at the 2014 budget, because we will have the same expenditures and maybe some emergency situations in the essential services such as fire and police. The other departments are pretty much, they mandate what they do, and the city runs fairly well. So that was one thing. I talked to Mary, and Jason, I probably should have talked to you too, but when we approved the CDBG budget, it was in my opinion that we should have maybe held off on approving $345,000 for improvements to parks. Because if it was something that we could hold off for a period of time, if it wasn't a complete necessity, a need rather than a want, I think we could have saved some money there. Not necessarily because of the way the CDB budget is and where the funding comes from, but the way I say things, if I've got $100, we don't need to necessarily spend $100 in my household. I'd like to have $10 someday when I need $10. So if we have money coming to us, I just feel that we shouldn't necessarily have to spend all the money that we've got coming to us. And that was just one item there. The human resource part of it, Cammie and I have talked, and we know that we're never going to come to an agreement on the compaction deal, and that's my deal. With the way that the contracts were handled this year, 2 of the unions settled early, 2 of the unions got to settle late, and the compaction issue that I believe and I see, the non-bargaining people are going to be taking a hit, whether it's in their health and welfare, whether it's in their Wisconsin retirement program. And everybody keeps on telling me that this is a fair program. It's not fair. Somebody just got taken to the cleaners because of a word called compaction. And I've tried to explain it as best I can, and I've tried to understand it from the other side as best I can. But this isn't a fair deal because we don't all make the same amount of money. We don't all have the same responsibilities. So that's another thing, that when we're going through budgets and we have the union and the non-union bargaining, I don't think that because one guy gets a raise that another guy should get a raise. I think every one of you that are department heads and every union member that's out there should be working on merit, their skills, what they were hired to do, and not just expect a raise because that's what somebody told us a long time ago. It doesn't necessarily work in the public sector, and it does not work in the private sector. So those were a few things that I had there. Police and fire departments. Chuck, you did it. This isn't a report card, but it's probably easier if I just go through them because it's a little bit more fair to you guys. I think you did a fantastic job the way that you've gotten grants. I told you that a long time ago before you were the chief, that you're a fantastic grant writer and you've helped the city of Superior, and you've been able to help your budget with those things. And that's fantastic. The fire department, on the other hand, we have failed to reach a budget with the fire department for 2 years. And I don't like that one bit. And we're going to be talking about some other issues later on, but this going back to this compaction stuff, we got the non-bargaining coming up and saying that, well, we need the raise because everybody else got a raise. I just don't believe in that. The other thing that was brought onto this council was an ultimatum, in my opinion. We had the opportunity to raise the tax levy to solve our problems. Now, every one of your departments has a budget that's handed down to you from Gene Vito. And almost all of you have made your budget with some extra, some surplus. Some have come short because of emergencies. But, and I am strong on this, when somebody comes and tells me that the other alternative is to shut down a fire hall, brown out a fire hall, and scare me with the thought that I'm going to take services away, I'm going to tell you to brown out the fire department. Because if it took you that much time to figure out that it's exactly 92 days to balance your budget, you wasted too much time trying to figure out on how not to balance your budget on the backs of the taxpayers of this community. If we've got 92 days that fire hall is going to be shut down and that is the solution, I want to know what the solution is to the 27,000 people in this city that are taxpayers, that are going to see their taxes go up. They're going to see a stormwater rate stay. You're going to see a sewage rate go up and everything else that you have. And we have to provide services to you. We have to provide safety in fire and police protection. But don't make it a budget issue. If you can't balance a budget, you got to think of other ways of doing it. And I don't think it was fair to this council to have to make a decision on balancing the budget with those ultimatums. Raise the taxes, shut down a fire hall. So as far as the other departments, the smaller departments, I know you guys are running on bare bones, and I commend you for that. Every one of you. I won't mention them because you know who we are. The other thing in a discussion that I had today is that we as counselors, now it's our turn, me included, we need to have more open dialogue with the department heads. We can't sit here and go to department head meetings and walk out of there and just get nothing out of it other than what is going to be on the agenda for the next meeting. It doesn't do any of us any good. We're not prepared when we come to these meetings. And I'm guilty of it myself. I was president twice. And I went there and I knew what was on the agenda, and you looked at it and that's all you had in front of you and everything looked good. When you're in a department heads meeting, everything looks good. Until you get here and you got the packet trying to figure out what they are. So that's something that we need to work on. We need to, if we have to advertise a meeting for open meeting laws, we got to stay in our guidelines. There's no doubt about that. But if we need to get with our department heads, take the time to meet with the mayor, the attorney, whoever it is, that's what we need to do to serve our public, all of us. The other thing then is that I mentioned earlier that I really believe in talking with Gene today, that this is what's going to happen. We need to start working on the 2014 budget, looking at where we are, what revenues we're going to have, what expenditures we're going to have. I think we need to look at, there was cargo down and stuff like that. Things like that when we're bringing in revenue, such as the grain mills, the coal, stuff like that. Those contracts are out a year, 2 years. It takes the old phrase, slow boat to China. That's what it is. It's a slow boat that doesn't get here in 2 weeks, knowing that they're going to take on so many basic tons of material, and we get paid revenue for that. The pipeline industry is booming, and we should see hopefully some raise in terminal tax, and I have all the confidence in the world that the people that are involved in that will take care of that. There's going to be a new pipeline coming to this community from North Dakota and stopping in Superior at Enbridge. So those are just a few of the things. I did have one other idea, and it'll be a big buzz, but there is one other way to raise revenue. And my suggestion, and I don't know the logistics of it, but if we increased our sales tax by 0.5%, if that was humanly possible and legally possible, that 0.5%, the majority of the people in this room, for the little items that you buy, you'd never see it. But every dollar that you spend, that 0.5% could be, it's 0.5%. So if 1/5 of that goes one place, a fifth goes another, you break that up into 5, you'd be amazed at how much 0.5% can go on what you purchase. And with all the development that's coming into our community, there's going to be jobs which will create income, which will create spending, which will create a tax base, and it all goes in a circle. And we should be able to benefit from that, the city, the county, so we can bring in money to our community that way. And for people, the industries that we've got coming, we're hoping to build new homes, development areas that we need for homes, for some of these higher paying jobs. Our housing stock is old, and these are the things that we can do so we can help ourselves. So my biggest deal in all this is that we all need to work together, because when we get out on the street, the first concern is that you're raising my taxes again. There are reasons that we have to do it. We can't go without some increases, or we just don't have services. If we have to consolidate some areas, that's for another day's discussion. But so I hope I haven't offended anybody. If I have, I'm available to meet with. I think that we can all move forward, and we had good dialogue, and there's a solution to all this stuff, and I think we can get to that solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Brown?
Yes, I'd also like to say I agree with Dan, and I've thought about this a lot too. And I talked to you the other day, Mayor, and before we raised the taxes, all the councilors, we got a long list of things that we thought may be tax or revenue saving items. And I know you suggested that we sit down and go through that, and we've not done that yet. And I would really like to see a nice round table of some counselors, some department heads, and some of the working people, some of the truck drivers, some of the guys that are just out shoveling, and our maintenance guys at the table, because they're the guys that are doing the work, and the guys most likely know how they can save time or save money. And so before we raise the taxes, I think we need to have some kind of a figure how much we can save. And we've not done that yet. So I would really, really like to have something set up before we do that. Thank you.
If I may, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the discussion that you just generated. I'm disappointed that there's a belief out there that, first of all, that this Director Vito handed down budgets to department heads, which is farthest from the truth that it could be. We started the budget process last June. Pardon me? 2 years ago. But I mean, as far as the bringing the reconciliation, or if you will, the refined budget to the council for 2013, probably in June with every single department. Where they've been gone back and forth. I made recommendations. I made eliminations. Director Vito, who I rely on very highly, we confabbed probably once a week on the budget preparations for 2013. And there were substantial reductions made in the budget. I mean, very substantial reductions made in the budget, and everybody here that is a department head or works in a department can attest to that. So I do agree with you, Councillor Olson, that their preparations are necessary, full disclosure is necessary, and with regard to that, I have to say that there's only one other measure that we could have done to bring the budget to you without a levy increase, and it isn't a scary tactic or thought, it's a fact. And that is the only thing we could have done is to eliminate services. And I'm not talking about browning out a fire hall. I'm talking about eliminating services. If we want to go forward with a zero budget increase in levy, is that practical? I do not believe it's practical. I understand nobody likes to see raised taxes, but I also don't like to see $4 a gallon milk. I don't like to see the food prices go up, the utility prices go up in my home and your home too. It's a fact that we're dealing with, and government is not exempt from that particular measure of inflation. Probably in some degree, a greater degree of inflation, because being held to the fire with regard to higher costs for what we do. And I don't think that it's a secret that if the private sector put out something for bid and the public sector puts out something for bid, it's common knowledge that because it's government, the bids come in higher. Why is that? We do not. I don't why. Because supposedly government has deep pockets, which we do not. Examples being, since I've arrived here a year and a half ago, I've not seen one single project that has estimated costs attached to it that have come in at cost or lower. None. Absolutely none. And so the monies that we have to provide for whatever it may be oftentimes get held up at the bank with regard to higher costs for these projects. I feel like I'm being told that I'm not communicating with the council. And if that is the case, then we need to talk. I put out emails constantly, maybe not as frequent recently as I have, and I apologize for that. I offered to meet with the council. We have met with council leadership with regard to the budget preparations. We have accepted thoughts, recommendations from the various councilors that have submitted that, and with regard to that, we are working on those. They aren't items that could be worked on immediately to put forward before budget deliberations because of the narrow timeline that is out there or was out there. And what I'd like to do is tell you that we are already working on 2014. Much of what that will encompass is many recommendations that I know, so sure as I'm sitting here, will be rejected. They'll be rejected. And I'll tell you why. I think we've come to the fork in the road whereby what is it that the people of Superior or any community really want? And here's what I believe they want. Services as we know them, but do not raise my taxes. It doesn't work. It does not work. Wages are going up, utilities are going up, cost of machinery goes up, and I sit and wonder, how do people come to that belief that you can provide all the services in yesterday's dollars or dollars of 3 years ago, because the levy hasn't gone up hardly at all, and not require revenue to do that? I would love to know how you do that. I would hand over this chair to anybody that can tell me how to do that. It's open. But I hear this discussion, and I walk away confused as to how do you do this with yesterday's 3 year ago dollars, without inflation, without cost increases, and provide the same services without anybody's, don't raise my taxes, but by God, you better provide those services. And if you don't, I'll be right on your back. I don't get it. So there will be a number of recommendations brought forward after analyses are completed that don't relate just to the 2014 budget. They relate to the world as we know it today, the world as we will believe it to be tomorrow, and I'm talking federal and state reduced revenues, shared revenues to the community, the world as we know it as how we should be operating in this day and age, and here's the scary part, the world as we know it, whereas the public sector shouldn't be doing some of these services in the first place. The role of government is to provide services to the public that, number one, the public can't provide for themselves, and number two, that the private sector can't provide in the market. And I'm going to submit to you tonight that there are, I believe, and we'll have this major discussion, and I know I'll lose this because I'm on the wrong side of the fence most of the time. There's going to be services I will be recommending we eliminate. And then the public will, I will appreciate it, but I'll also say the public will go crazy because you can't do that. Oh, by the way, though, you can't raise my taxes. I don't get it, folks. I don't get it. You brought up some very good ideas with regard to how do we address the 5-year plan I'm talking about. We just had a discussion today with Secretary Wayman Winston at WIDA. We had a major meeting down there this morning in Madison, and he said, you know, we need to do something about your housing stock in Superior. You got the oldest housing stock in the state of Wisconsin, and the 13th oldest housing stock in the nation, which kind of, I can't get my arms around that one. And that is impeding you from growing. So we are going to be looking at a program through WIDA in 2014 that may address some of this issue. Every candidate that was in town for these recent elections they brought it up, I didn't. You know, Mayor, you've got the oldest housing stock. We need to do something about that. I think we recognize that also in a subdued, subliminal level, something we don't want to talk about because we don't want to offend anybody. But the reason we have, and I've done this analysis, not scientific, if you look at every major industry in Superior, including the Board of Education, the City of Superior, the County of Douglas, the university, the hospital, and on and on and on, minimum 30% of their people don't live in Douglas County. Why? They can't find the housing stock they're interested in, all those dollars, all these jobs we bring in, and I'm not saying we, working very hard with a lot of different groups to bring in, do not do us one bit of good. Zero. If they're not spending their paychecks here and being part of the tax base. We need to do something about that. And that'll be one of the discussions we will have and recommendations we bring forward. I will also be bringing forward a very dramatic change in how we manage the city of Superior for two reasons. One is, I'll be right up front, my time, in my opinion, is being wasted. My skills that I have gathered over 45 years is being wasted by the measures and the process and the governing that I do and the responsibilities that I have need to be changed. I'm not going to say any more than that right now, right here. There's a great level of frustration by the council. There's a great level of frustration in my office. There's a great level of frustration by the department heads and the line workers, the staff, everybody in this operation for a number of reasons, and we will get to those also. There will be changes on the horizon that I will recommend. If you don't buy them, that's not the important part. They have to be recognized, they have to be discussed, and we have to have an open dialogue on how we do business in this community. And I agree with you. You hit a lot of those nails squarely on the head in what your discussion was tonight and previous, and same with Councilor Brown and all of you. With that, I think we're on the same page. And we have a lot of items that are coming to a pinnacle as we speak with regard to positive items, with regard to items that could be detrimental, with regard to items that could cause further disjoint. But we need to get there together. And part of what we will be discussing will be a short-term plan, a medium-term plan, 3 years, and a long-term plan, 5 to more. So I look forward to that, and I know you do too, but we've all been stressed out to some degree or another. And I think we are on the same page. How we get there may be a little bit different, but let me just say something else. I get around a lot, different communities, and we were in Madison today and had some discussions down there, and I get the same question asked by some cabinet level people. How do you do what you do? I don't understand the question. Well, how can you pave streets and how are you attracting these industries when we have counties in Wisconsin in the lower third are letting their county roads go back to gravel because they can't afford to pave them? And that shocked me. Secretary Gottlieb in 2 different discussions said, we have major cities in the state they're putting zero money into streets and so forth because they can't afford it. So how are you doing that? And basically, I tell them that with council and with the department heads, we're reprioritizing how we're doing business. We're putting our resources back to where they need to be rather than where they may have been, and that's how we're doing it. And in 2014, we're going to see major improvements in this city, and I think for the next 5 years, we're going to be seeing a whole lot of major changes, especially in the streets and highways and the bridges, and how we model our community for the future. But will that continue? I don't know. Unless things improve all around us, we may end up being caught in the same maze that other communities and counties and boards of education are, with trying to figure out what to do with nothing. But the the issue here is, and it's no secret, whether it's school districts, university systems, cities, counties, towns, and villages, the powers that be, and I'm not talking political, I'm talking the powers that be with how the monies are distributed to our units of responsibility are diminishing and requiring us to do more on our own. So I have to go back to 3-year-old revenue sources working today with fewer shared revenue resources. It can't be done. And continue business as we know it. So we have to be innovative. You're right, Counselor. We have to look forward, and we will. And I'm not speaking as a downer. I'm speaking as we are, as we speak, working very hard in every department and operations to make sure that when we come here next fall, we'll have an experienced dialogue that has been vetted, researched, and analyzed, so that when we do come to you next fall, and we will before next fall, periodically preparing and discussing what may have to be ultimately discussed to adopt a 2014 and 15 budget. So I appreciate the research and the discussions you've had, because you've done a great job, and you're looking out forward as we are too, and as all of you are. I mean, you've got a tough job. You got a tough job, and every one of you put a lot of time, a lot of hours, and a lot of personal time into getting this done for the people that you serve and the people you love in the community, and I want to thank you for that. So we will be working with you and openly with the public as to how do we get there, and get there with the same, hopefully, service and provisions we have. So I didn't want to take that amount of time, but I want to just thank you. For the last time, those this week wish to speak against may do so now. Hearing none, I'll call the public hearing to a close and call for the question. I'm sorry, Councilor McKenzie, Vice President McKenzie.
Thanks. I should have put my light on sooner. With all this said, I really appreciate all this discussion. I think I forgot what I was going to say now. And probably what I have to say is probably not all that significant, or maybe it's already been said, but I think this 1% that just came up recently was a good thing, a decrease. I wish it would have been something that came up sooner. I think that we could have looked at this budget again, and maybe we could have cut some places even more. I think just to talk about more discussion previously about some of the ideas some people had about making some cuts somewhere, or maybe even making some revenue somewhere. I wish that would have happened, like Bob Brown has said, and round table discussion or some kind of discussion it certainly would not have hurt. And Mayor, like you said, these are tough jobs that we have up here, and you hear a lot of things, and I get around too, and I talk to a lot of people. And I primarily try to talk to my people in my district to see what they're feeling, and I talk to people throughout the city, and none of them felt that that they wanted their taxes raised. I know of nobody that does. I certainly don't. But I think the general consensus there was that as a city government, me included, we probably didn't do enough to ensure the fact that these taxes that we have now, they're too high now. Everybody that I talk to, whether you're going door-to-door campaigning or you're just talking, my taxes are too high. What the hell can you do about that? And so that's what they're saying, and they just don't feel that we probably didn't do enough to keep the already too high taxes from going up even higher. And I feel bad about that. I'm disappointed about that, and but I still think that I think we could have done something to have kept this on an even par. Right now, I'd like to make sure that everybody that is in the audience understands that this is the time to talk about this. If you have any concerns, whether you're for it or against, We will be voting for this later on, excuse me, on the agenda at 10.1, but this would be a time to voice your opinion. So thanks for everybody for being here.
Counselor Stenberg.
I just want to bring up that over the last several years, we've been trying to cut everything to the bone. So I think in defense of that, I guess it's been cut, department heads been cutting for years, so there isn't a lot of fat.
Thank you.
To approve the budget as amended.
Oh, there wasn't a motion, I'm sorry.
I didn't hear it if there was. I didn't catch the motion.
Was there a
I'm sorry.
motion prior?
Bob?
No, I made a
Okay.
motion.
Mayor, Terry, am I wrong in reading that there was no action to be taken on this at this
There was
particular
no,
point?
if I'm understanding correctly, Gene, there was no action that was needed on the public hearing, but Gene now needs a motion to lower the levy by $114,000 by reducing
That's the motion,
it.
is to approve the budget as amended.
Yes.
That's my second.
Okay.
For the motion and second to approve as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 6 is a consent agenda.
You've heard the motion in multiple seconds to approve the consent agenda. Counselor?
I'd like to pull 614, 2 and 3, please.
6,
614-2 and 3.
614-2
And 3.
and 3. All in favor of the consent agenda? Counselor?
I'd like to pull 618-3.
Counselor?
615-3.
You've heard the items being pulled respectively. All in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item 614.2 is the Finance Committee, October 11th, recommendation to approve the following changes to the stormwater utility charge assessment, ERU, increase from 1,907 square feet to 2,933 square feet, and streamlining the fee structure by combining the fixed and variable fees into one storm water fee of $5.90 per month. This is also under item 11.5.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. Is there somebody here that can answer questions about this stormwater fee billing?
Yeah, she's coming up.
Oh, okay. Hi, Diane.
Diana, turn the light.
Hello.
Now, the first question I have is that this doesn't affect the monthly billing that people are going to get. There's not going to be an increase in a rate. Is that correct?
There will not be. Currently, there is a $2 rate for the fixed fee and a $3.90 rate for the variable fee or the ERU. We're proposing to combine them into one $5.90 per ERU rate. So the majority of the people will end up seeing a slight rate decrease because we're also increasing the amount of square foot in an ERU from 1907 to 2933.
Okay, that's a good thing. So I think the 3540 or 35 and change.
3540 will stay 3540.
Okay, that'll stay. And then what changes as far as how the bill comes to your house? Is it still going to be bi-yearly?
It will still be twice a year, yes.
Twice a year?
Yep.
And it'll still look the same? It
Well,
won't be any.
we're going to change the format a little bit, but
So it'll look different, but it won't confuse anybody.
it shouldn't. It should be simpler with the new format we're looking at.
Okay. All right, those are the questions I had, so that's Good, thanks.
You're welcome.
Part of the reason to move the fixed together is the Springbrook software. It's going to be easier to administer that process and billing by combining it. Mr. Peterson, did you want to speak to this?
Originally signed up for 11.5, which would make this the ordinance. Is that right, Terry? But if there's going to be discussion on it, it looks like it might happen at this time. And I know you have the both the stormwater here and the sewage rate in a little while to discuss for an increase. And most of my discussion is on the sewage, but somehow they do relate. Going back a while, Bruce, you might remember when we were campaigning. This was an issue then. It was an issue when you were gone, and it was an issue because the businesses, some businesses pay thousands and thousands of dollars for stormwater. And during the campaign, it was my understanding that you were going to form a citizen committee to investigate some options to look at it totally. Maybe we'd end up right where we were, maybe we wouldn't. And in fact, I was put on that committee, and shortly after you started office, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, for whatever the powers that be, I received a letter saying that committee was not going to be created at that time. It was my understanding that, I don't know why, people were busy or they had to do homework. I made some indirect inquiries as to why, and there was homework being done before they could create the committee to really look at the issues. I let it go. Here we are almost 2 years later, and now this is in front of us for an increase. Only letter I've ever received on this was, we're not ready for you to have a committee yet. I haven't received any communication. Now I understand that the city's hired expert consultants, or I don't know who came up with these rates. It wasn't citizen committee. I don't know if the councilors came up with these rates or if you paid people to do this. But there's been no citizen input on this. Back when she stepped out, Jean stepped out, but she'll swear that back when this stormwater was created, I went to almost every single committee meeting. I was not on the committee, but as a citizen, I attended all the meetings and have some knowledge of the history of how we got to where we are. So it's somewhat frustrating, even though this may be the fairest thing that can be put for stormwater. It's frustrating, given that brief story I share with you. And I'd ask that you create the committee that was promised during the election before you change the rates on this, Bruce. Thanks.
I can explain that, Kevin. Yes, I did form a committee. The committee was to review the operation, management, and structure of the ESD, and I can be hopefully open about that and the fact that I believed that ESD needed some reorganization with regard to how it functions, flows, composition, staffing, supervisory levels, and so forth, as well as...
That's the whole place you're talking, stormwater and sewer.
Right. What happened, to be honest with you, is the docket got very large with regard to the submittals of paper by ESD that became voluminous. In fact, the day that the committee was going to meet for the very first time, a get-to-know-you meeting, I will say that I became a little upset by the fact that the volume of paper for each member of the committee got to be about that deep. And I said, no, we're not going to subject the committee to that type of volume of paper and scare them all down the road. So the backup, and we will be looking for a citizen committee once we get the ducks in line, if you will, to Just let me finish.
No, I hear you. I'm just, some irony had nothing to do
And
with
so
this.
the thought that I had on that is to hire expert consultants to go through the entire operation of the functionality, organizational makeup, management, and other parts of that operation, including equipment and structure. And as you probably have read, that analysis offered by Mr. Soderberg, it's very thorough. It has some very strong as well as appreciated recommendations in moving forward. And what we're doing now is dissecting that document and separating it out for action items and organization. Now, getting to the bottom line of what I believe is going to be necessary, it's one of three things. It should be either a separate department, it should be a utility as it is right now, but in the sense of a utility, or it should be privatized.
I mean, that's my understanding, is that it is a utility now.
It is. But it's utility in face and function, but not in my opinion, standalone.
There's
So
definitely some
it has
gray-
too
gray
many. It
areas.
has too many bosses, if you will.
And I haven't read the whole report. Two things that come to mind is I remember ERUs and being educated as to what they were years ago, and it seemed like they had to be an average of something, and so how they can go from 1,900 to 2,900, I'll take some time and look at the report. Maybe it'll be obvious to me, but it's just also ironic that this simple thing of $2 here and get rid of the fixed fee, which ironically is what I want to do on this other thing I'm going to talk about, if I have any luck on that. But I don't know if it's going to double, but it's going to probably increase my stormwater bill from maybe $800 or $1,000 to maybe $1,500 or $1,800, because when you play with the fixed fee, it sounds good for some, but it's not always good for everybody. But now, that's all I have on that. You're going to, Terry, if you could, on the other issue, let me know, and so it doesn't get to the ordinance, if I could talk on it at the proper time.
Sure, you bet.
Excuse me, Mayor, Kevin, I just have a question for you. Are you talking about the, you're talking about the stormwater utility fee? Because
That's what I've been talking about for the past, for the past.
Right, but I mean, we're just kind of wondering up here, I mean, you realize that the prices are not going up on that as far as?
They are for me, the way I understand it. If you have multiple properties and you have one fixed fee of $2, you're going to get rid of the $2 and add it over to my $3.90. Now I'm going to pay $3.90 20 or 30 times, and I'm not even a big property owner.
Mhm.
You see the problem there?
Okay, now I know what you're talking about,
So
yeah.
that's how you can make it look like it's not going up for anybody. In simple math, and then they're not saying I'm not saying that's what they really try to represent it as, but I'm giving you an example how it's going up pretty drastically for me. And I'd have been here anyway because of the story, and I think more citizens should get involved and look at this again, and Bruce has some good ideas. If you can make this standalone, I don't know if functionally that'd be a nice thing to do, but if you can, I don't know. But so that's how my rate will go up drastically. Is I haven't put the pencil to it, but in crude numbers, it's going to go up quite a bit.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hey, thanks, Kevin.
Do you want to approve that recommendation under the Finance Committee?
You're talking about with, yeah.
Item number 2?
Yeah, we can vote on that.
Okay, then we need a motion.
So a second?
I don't, who made the first? I didn't hear anybody.
Not me.
Okay.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, item 3 of the Finance Committee minutes is to approve increase in the variable sewer usage rate from $5.82 to $7.43 per CCF, and leave the fixed rate at $5.50 for a total increase of revenue of 19.88%.
Council Bridge.
Just a point of order, and my understanding, at least we used to always have motions before discussion, and that kind of simplifies things. I'm not sure if that's part of Robert's rules or not, but that was done that way for most of my years here.
You're right.
Was that a motion?
Second.
I've heard a motion and a second to approve. Discussion. Counselor McKenzie?
Yeah, this one concerns me more. And I think I would have been all right with this had we not doubled the fixed rate less than a year ago. And now we're increasing that variable rate by almost 20%. And I know some people are saying that, a solution to that is just simply stop using water or use a lot less water. But I would say, ask that to families who have a bunch of children, family of 5, 6, 7. Ask that to the people who are have daycares or there's rest homes and or all the businesses. And so I think this is something that's considerably high that is going to add to their the increasing property taxes, and it's just kind of snowballing. So I'm not in favor of this one.
Director Vito?
Thank you. Before, when the discussion's all done and the council makes a decision, I just wanted to give you some information before you do that. You'll see in the memo that I sent out, and I got help from Jeff and Steve Roberts. There are 6 components to the rate increase. And in the past, it was always difficult to get a rate increase because we would bring forward 20%, 25%, for example, in 2012. Or in previous years, a number of years we tried to get increases and they didn't get passed. And I think it was because we weren't doing a good enough job of separating out every single component of why we needed that rate increase. So we did that in 2012, and without question, that was an extremely difficult decision for the council, but it was also, after 5 years of no increases, it should be no surprise that you're faced with a 20 or 25% increase at that time. So what we have now is agreed close to 19 or 20% an additional increase. And as I said in my memo, there is no question that we are in catch-up mode. And so whether you decide to vote yes or no for this, you need to understand what the ramifications are if you do vote no, if you don't support this. Part of the rate increase is to cover shorter-term capital projects that, because we didn't have rate increases and because these were Band-Aid fixes to the system, we had to do them. There wasn't a choice. And what happened is that they came out of reserves. And so from 2007 to 2011, we depleted our reserves from $7.1 million down to, I think it was just in the high $3 millions. And that's because of this. We have to do those short-term fixes. We can't have holes in our sewer pipes. That's part of this rate increase. It's the largest part of the rate increase. That's a catch-up. There's a flood control program expansion that's recommended, and there are, I think, 30 applications from people that would like to be participating in this project. This is, from what I understand from Interim Administrator Steve Roberts, this is a request that fluctuates. It's very logical that it's fluctuating after a flooding event like we just had. That's something that this will cover those applications, but we may not have those levels of applications in the future, and this is something that should be paid close attention to in the future, because you may not need to have this at that level as a part of your base in your sewer rate. The Headworks project. The Headworks project intended to decrease sanitary sewer overflows and increase the capacity of the system. A very important part of the requested rate increase. The Tower Avenue project. We're not going to tear up Tower Avenue and not do the work underneath the ground at the same time, and that is a part of the rate increase. We will be getting bids on that in January. There's an inflationary factor here, And there's also a factor for the FEMA match that we've got. It's wonderful, we're getting FEMA money, but we have a match, and part of that's coming out of the wastewater treatment plant. We need to fund that. So if there's parts of this that you don't like, then I think now is the time to take them out. But otherwise, these projects will not get funded.
I appreciate your suggestion very much, and I would like to have us do just that. There's headworks projects, there's sewer, not sewer, but water overflow valves in there, which you're passionate about. Are you not? And there's headworks projects. You've committed to the Tower Avenue project a long time ago, which is $1 million sewer. So I believe it's incumbent upon us to make the decision one by one as to what we want in and what we want out, because it's full disclosure of this. If we don't put the sewer in Tower Avenue and we dig down that far and we put the street back in and it falters, what have we accomplished? We can do that. We can knock that $1 million out of there and take the chance. We can knock the $1 million sewer out of Belknap Street when Belknap is reconstructed and take the chance that it's not going to collapse. We're talking 120-year-old sewers. Some are clay portions and some are brick portions. We can knock out the $250,000 for the backwater valves, but don't come asking for them. We can knock out the headworks project, which is going to do a diversion to cause greater flow, which will reduce the Faxon and the K Street sewer volume and flow. So I think you have a good point, Director. Maybe we should just bring each one on the floor and vote them up or down. And because I think we're getting confused as to why we're doing this, why we need to do it, and what if we don't do it. That way we have, everybody stands on their own as to, I don't want the backwater valves, or I do. I don't want the sewer on Tower Avenue, or I do. There isn't anything in here that is of, in my opinion, an option. We either do it or we don't. And I seriously, if the Tower Avenue project is going to be a very, very entailed, difficult project for a lot of people, especially the business people on Tower Avenue. But if we don't put the sewer in, we can get the project done sooner. Counselor?
Yeah, I guess we all know that the city of Superior is built on a wetland. And 2020 hindsight, we've gone and destroyed the biggest majority of our wetlands. That's one of the reasons that a lot of the flooding occurred, that the city doesn't have the capacity that it used to have to pick up all the rainwater when it comes. So now we've got to build these holding ponds. That's our fault. We dump our sewage water into the bay a couple of miles from where we draw our drinking water. You know, what's wrong with this picture? But if you want clean drinking water, then we better have a pretty good sewage plant. So if we want to live in a clean world, it doesn't come cheap. So now we got to bite the bullet. And I guess that's about the easiest way I can explain it.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Olson?
Gene, question for you. Are we using, or maybe I'm asking the wrong person, so forgive me if I am. Are we using any of this increase of the 19.88% to help fund the claims that we have, the liabilities claims? Okay. that answers that. Mayor, to address your issue about putting the road in without the sewers, I have been a construction laborer for 37 years, and that is absolutely impossible. That shouldn't even be discussed. The sewers need to be there.
I know that, and I agree with you.
I'm agreeing
just,
with you.
I'm just trying to get it across that these aren't for nothing.
Well, I understand, and that's what I'm trying to do too. That's not an option. I mean, Todd, Jeff, can we do that? No, we're not going to do that. That's yes. So,
Bridge.
I don't think there's anything here that's an option, and while this isn't an easy pill to swallow, it's not unusual for what cities around the state of Wisconsin, along Lake Superior, and in the state of Minnesota are doing, and that's unfortunate. You know, we lost a lot of money. I've been here for more than 10 years now, and we've been talking about that since probably the second meeting that I got here. And so this stuff isn't new. This is a very old discussion. And you really didn't have to make a great deal of effort to keep apprised of where we were headed on this. These are very important issues. It's unfortunate that it costs money. It's unfortunate that we don't get money from someplace else to help us pay for it. But these are things we need to do.
Time to call the question on this.
President Herrick.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment. Yeah, if we don't upgrade these things now, if we wait even 2 or 3 years, it's going to definitely cost us a lot more. Again, none of us up here want to raise anything, but unfortunately, you know, things wear out, and the infrastructure starts to go weak. And to keep that infrastructure strong, which will attract more and more industries here, I think that's something we have to do. I think it's a good investment. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have two people in the audience that want to speak to this. Mr. Curtis?
I'm Marty Curtis, 5301 East First. And Ed and I, we've had lots of conversation on money and funding for things. And yeah, the sewage, like the taxes, is a tough one. And I'm not even going to step into that. My question on this is, basically, I've looked at the flat fee and I asked some questions on it, and I haven't got answers yet. Maybe they were tough questions, but the flat fee seems to affect the poor of our community the most, and I'd like to see that flat fee looked at. And also with the 25% increase I believe we had in sewage last year, and now almost another 20%, I really believe we have to look at the billing system through Water and Light and make that so it's more clear to the citizens. I've spoken on that for the last couple of years, and we've got some minimal changes, but as we keep increasing these fees, that system really has to be looked at and fixed. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, I too wanted to speak not about the projects. I'm not here to debate the projects or the costs, but the fee structure regarding fixed fees. I've talked to Bruce when you first got in. When this was kind of, I think when you first got in, there was a rush to get a budget through budget increase on sewage, amongst many other things you had on your plate at that time. And hopefully you remember, at least briefly, I mentioned the fixed fees was an issue for me and other landlords, and that would be looked at again. And although I didn't have a chance to make it to Finance Committee, I was surprised that it wasn't discussed there. I have, as many of you would remember, and I got the tally sheet out here, and I could only find 2 or 3 that maybe I haven't at least made a casual reference to this issue in the past 2 or 3 years to the councilors, some more than others, and that it is just the most unequitable thing about sewage is how you charge a fixed fee rate. To have my competition of a motel not pay a fixed fee is, yet if you read the ordinance, and I'm not here to educate you on your own ordinance, but there's some conflicts is the ordinance being properly implied. And this could be all cleared up if you simply eliminated the fixed fee. I'm not saying eliminate the budget by that much. You can even add it on to your budget so that the money comes out the same. I'm not saying take in less money. I'm not saying tax less. I'm saying make this equitable, that for a fourplex with 5 water meters, shouldn't pay 5 times as much as a fourplex with 1 water meter. And as I mentioned earlier, to wrap this up, I just thought it was just perfect. I'll read a quote here from something that's on your agenda from just the last item you discussed. It says, "We are proposing to streamline the fee structure by combining the fixed and variable fee into one stormwater fee." So if it was good enough for stormwater, I don't understand the confusion. And there's actually many more inequities with sewage that some of you know about or I'll be glad to answer questions, but it's because of the inequity. I got a couple of duplexes that it doesn't matter that much to me, but on bigger stuff it does matter to others. It's just unfair, and wish you would consider eliminating the fixed fee from the rate structure, but still collect the same amount that you budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion on the floor is by Councilor Bridge, seconded by Councilor Finsland to approve the recommendation.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carried.
Item 615-3 is the Human Resources Committee, October 15th. Recommendation to approve the fire chief's request for a wage adjustment for non-union staff.
Councilor Olson?
Yeah, real briefly here.
Point of order, that we
Motion-
made clear a moment
Motion to
ago.
approve.
Motion's been made to approve, okay?
Motion and second approved. Councilor Olson?
Thank you. You all right now? Okay. I'm looking at the memorandum here, and my question is, before we consider approving these, on a document of June 18th, 2012, at an HR agenda, there's a recommendation that the non-represented firefighters of the Superior Fire Department receive the same wage increases as the represented firefighters to create the same balance of increased contributions and increased pay as we negotiated with the represented officers. And it says, please see mayor's memo. And the memo states that I gotta step back here, sorry guys. It says on the bottom of that I understand that Chief Rigsted, as of this writing, has come close to reconciling the 2012 and 2013 budgets, but many questions still remain that may financially swing this picture, including the effect on overtime from the proposed changes. On the back it says, I further recommend that the HRC not approve the current proposal brought forth by Chief Rigsted until and if reconciliation is accomplished within the current and adopted fire department operating budgets for 2012 and 2013. My question is, has that reconciliation been reached for the 2012 and 2013 budget?
I'll do it. I can. This should go without saying that when I give information out to you as counselors, and you make a decision on that, if it changes, I need to tell you. And if you weren't going to bring up this item tonight, I was, because the information that was given to HRC at, I don't know if it was a September or October meeting, and I didn't attend that, but I specifically told Cammie to relay the message that the budget for 2012 was balanced for the fire department. Since then, because of the issue of less staffing, increased numbers of firefighters on disability, we had done an initial estimate of where we thought overtime would go, and that was a part of the balancing of the 2012 budget. That has far blown past that estimate. So now what I'm telling you is that we do not have a balanced budget for the fire department. So What you have before you is a decision of whether you will approve at a cost of something like $2,100, the non-union fire salary increases in light of a budget that is not balanced. Every year at this time, and the other department heads can attest to this, they know that they'll be getting a correspondence from me about where the projections are expected to be for all the departments through the end of the year. And I did send that out a couple of weeks ago. And so what we have to do when one department goes over, somebody else has to cover it if that department can't cover it themselves. If there's no solution for the fire department to cover their budget by the end of the year, somebody else has to, or we run the risk of running a deficit, which we have not done in almost 20 years. So every year we fix it, and it isn't a perfect system, and it's a very frustrating system. So having said that, I have looked and reviewed with the other department heads to see where can we possibly come in under budget to offset where the fire department will go over. That doesn't make other departments happy, but I'm just giving you all this information so you can, it isn't my decision to say what you should do with the request that's brought before you, but I want you to have all the facts that go behind it before you make up your mind on the issue.
Chief Rakestead, did you want to?
Yeah, talking about our 2012 budget, when that budget was originally set, it was set with a 0% increase for everybody in the fire department. Act 10 came along, the firefighters were exempt from making their contributions to the WRS. That money had to come out of our budget. The fire department budget is already set. 96% of the fire department budget is in wages. The rest is operating. Our operating costs have been cut to where they cannot be cut anymore. Our training budget is at $5,000. That covers maybe sending the inspectors to their conference and the fire investigators to their conference and nothing else. We are between a rock and a hard place. What do you do to cut fees? The only thing we can do is we can lay people off. We lay people off, we get somebody gone on sick time, on disability leave, we have to replace them with somebody on overtime. Costs more to put somebody in on overtime than to have somebody there working. The budget for the fire department has been cut to the point where it cannot be cut anymore without cutting services. We have a minimum staffing. We have 3 people on a truck. We don't drop below that. It's not safe. And the only way we can cut services, again, is to close a hall. There is no other way to cut money out of the fire department budget. This increase for the officers, there are 4. There are 92 public safety people in the city of Superior. Every other one of those has gotten this wage adjustment. And it's not a raise, it's not taking a cut in take-home pay. The wages of the battalion chiefs and the chief will drop by over 6%, their take-home pay, if this is not approved. And they will be the only 4 out of the 90-some public safety employees that will have to take that cut.
And I appreciate your explanation of that, but you still haven't balanced the budget. And I'm not sure why the other departments, we had a discussion that we were going to try and get away from one department having to cover for the other department, and I'm not sure how much further that has gone, but the bottom line on this, Chief, is that the memo that I'm looking at is that the recommendation would be that if you balance the budget, if it was reconciled, and now it has gotten worse, and you're still asking for an increase. And I understand that when we're talking a wage or a contribution, it's a defined contribution going to your health, and it's a defined contribution or a defined benefit to your pension. Which is it?
Well, actually, it's the money that's going towards the pension that's being offset, that was
Okay, but-
negotiated for by the unions for the
Is
city
it
to
a
increase.
your health care is a defined contribution because it's a certain amount of money that's put towards your health care.
Correct. And the
Okay.
four union.
And then, hold on. Then the cost of your insurance per month is that, and you qualify for your health care that way. Is your pension a contribution as well? Do you have an accrual rate towards the pension that you have? Or is it a straight Gene?
It's a
Defined benefit plan
Thank
where
you.
the state tells us what we're going to contribute. In the past, it's always been contributed by the city, and then it changed that a part of that is contributed by the employees.
Okay. So, it's an increase to your wage if it's going to a defined benefit plan because it is a defined benefit for you. And it's based on what your contribution and what the requirements under the pension plan that you belong to. So you are asking for a raise. And in the essence of not balancing the budget, and the budget actually in a worse position now from back in June 18th, that's not right. That's not right. And then I get back to the compaction thing that you just said. Everybody else is getting it. We should get it. And that's wrong. Number one, you haven't balanced your budget. And we've had a problem with this budget for over 2 years.
Maybe that tells us that there's something wrong with that budget and more needs to be budgeted if we're going to continue the level of service that we have now. Our budget has been cut and cut and cut. Our department was slashed back when Mayor Scone was mayor.
But you're asking for an increase to 4 non-bargaining unit people. I would like to make a motion that we... Oh, okay. Thank you, Frog.
Any further discussion? Counselor?
I just need clarification, Gene. Will the money be there, we're looking at $2,100, right?
Well, what I have to do is I have to work with the other direction from the mayor and the other departments to come to the end of the year and have the general fund have a balanced budget. That means it has to come from somewhere. And remember when we brought forward, I don't want to make this any longer, but we brought forward solutions. Yeah, I'm not even going to go there. It'll have to be covered somewhere. It'll have to be covered by somebody else.
Thank you.
Mayor, motion to refer back to committee.
Heard the motion and a second for referral. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item 6.8 is, item 3 is the Public Works Committee recommendation from October 17th to approve Council Joyle's request to reinstall stop signs at North 12th Street and Clough Avenue.
Heard a motion and a second to approve. Discussion.
Who separated that? I don't know. Kim Call signed it.
Mr. Culp?
Thank you. Kim Culp. I live over here on Baxter Avenue, and a little not germane to this topic, but my house is over 100 years old, and I'm proud of it. And the sewer behind it's 120 years old and seems to be doing when we don't get 10 feet of rain a day. But back to the stop sign. Those stop signs were there. I travel 12th Street a lot, and very often you'd come to a stop, nobody around, and then go. And I don't understand why they would need to be it would need to be put back in. That's the street feeding onto 12th Street there is rarely ever traveled. It's next to the park, but the park isn't operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When there's a ball game, there's people around there, and you drive careful, you know, but most of the time nobody's around. So I think putting that stop sign back in there is a waste of a stop sign and a waste of a lot of people's time who use that street quite frequently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Bridge.
You know, I thought it was, I had a couple people who live along there tell me they liked it, but they lived right on the corner, one of them where the stop sign was, and, you know, I totally eliminated that route for, I don't know how long those stop signs were there, but for all but probably the first week that they were there. And I drove it again recently just because, I don't know why, you know, I get back in a habit of not going someplace because it's inconvenient, and it's a lot nicer without them there.
Councilor McKenzie.
Yeah, I guess I feel I have an obligation as chair of the Public Works Committee, and I just need to point out that you know, I appreciate Len doing what he's trying to do, but there were no signs there for many, many years, and no one said anything about it. And when there was reconstruction done on 12th Street, those signs were put up temporarily. When they were put up temporarily, there was a lot of people, I do believe that Len had told me that there was a lot of people that were opposed to that, and he came to the committee wanting those signs down, and they were taken down. It didn't need to be an ordinance because it was something that was temporary. I guess there was one family that wanted them back up. I think there were 2 people at the Public Works Committee, you know, saying that they want to back up. There was equal amount of people saying don't put them up there as well. And I think the main thing for me, because I voted against putting this sign back up, and I based it on what the professionals were telling me, and that was the Public Works Director said that didn't qualify for a sign to be there. The Assistant Public Works Director opposed it. Law enforcement was there. Mark McGillis was there, and he opposed it for several reasons. And so for that reason, I'm opposed to it as well. Again, you know, I appreciate what Len's trying to do. Sometimes you get all these different opposing ideas of what people want, but I think in this case, I think the mass majority of the people do not want that sign there. And I guess I'd like to ask Public Works, somebody from Public Works, to address this as well.
Well, I mean, I guess the same thing we talked about at the Public Works Committee meeting. I mean, that 12th Street doesn't, at that particular intersection, warrant by our criteria, MUTCD, a stop sign there. We do have some routes that try to go, you know, as few stops as possible in main arterials through town, and that is one of those. Discussions seem to center around whether there are crashes there or anything, and I think Sergeant McGillis indicated he didn't have any crash data there as well. Obviously, there's safety concerns there with the park and baseball fields at certain times of the year, and I think that does play in a little bit, but strictly by traffic control numbers, it's not meeting any warrants.
Yeah, and I think because of the playground there, I think it was pointed out by someone that was at the meeting that there is a crosswalk. It is a half a block down or so, but there is a marked crosswalk with a stop sign there that allows children to cross over to Wade Bowl.
I sit on that committee as well, and one of the reasons that we had a lengthy discussion on it was that in 2016, Belknap is going to be redone, and that will be a route that is used quite frequently. And aside from warrants and all the other stuff that goes with it, pros and cons, at that point in time, we thought that maybe it would be just a good thing to have it there for the traffic that will be using that road, and get them used to, you know, the traffic calming, if anything, and that's why I approved it at that time for the future construction. The Belknap's going to be all torn apart, and everybody goes that way.
Councilor Joyal.
The reason I brought this to the council is in response to the 6 families in that immediate neighborhood who lobbied me for that position.
Thank you. Counselor Brown?
Yeah, just a question. On a marked crosswalk, is it mandatory for traffic to stop for pedestrians? The answer is yes. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Would the clerk read the motion again?
The motion was by Counselor Joyle, seconded by Counselor Olson to approve.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Would the clerk call the roll? Out of respect to Counselor Stenberg, what's the ruling, attorney? She's not on the floor.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. We should probably wait.
I think she probably went to the restroom.
If it pleases the council, we'll move to the next item and return to this motion when Counselor Stenberg is able to be with us. Heard the motion, and second. Is all in favor? Opposed? We'll proceed.
Item 7.1, Assistant Finance Director Zahusky is submitting the 2013 liability insurance budget.
Point of order.
Counselor?
Have we approved the consent agenda?
No.
Well,
I'm sorry.
consent agenda is
We've approved the consent agenda. We're waiting for Counselor Stenberg to come back to vote on the motion with regard to the stop signs.
We might ought to wait for her to vote on anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And I hate to have it be close on 7.1 and have that be the thing that makes us wish he was back.
If it pleases the council, I'm sorry.
She's coming.
Would the clerk read the motion on the floor for the benefit of Counselor Stenberg?
The motion was by Counselor Joyle, seconded by Counselor Olson, to approve Counselor Joyle's request to reinstall the stop signs at North 12th and Clough Avenue by roll call vote. And we're going to start with.
Bowler.
Yes. Counselor Stenberg. No. Counselor McDonald. No. Counselor Joyle. Yes. Counselor Finsland. Yes. Counselor Herrick. Yes. Counselor McKenzie. No. Counselor Brown. No. Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Counselor Bridge.
No.
And Counselor Bender is excused. The motion is 5-4. Motion fails. We did. We already did.
We already did.
Item 7.1, Assistant Finance Director Zahusky is submitting the 2013 liability insurance budget.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Assistant Finance Director Zahusky is submitting the 2013 Information Services budget.
What is the pleasure? Heard the motion and second to approve. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
7.3, Police Chief Legess is requesting council approval for the disposition of 2 seized and forfeited vehicles as outlined in the correspondence.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 7.4, Public Works Director Getzman is recommending to award SEH a contract to perform engineering services for the Central Business District Storm Sewer Alternatives Project for $84,450.
You've heard the motion and multiple seconds to approve. Discussion? Counselor Herrick.
Yeah, Jeff, can you elaborate on this project? what it will entail and what the benefits of it are?
Yeah, certainly, Counselor. The design of this project is, what we're contemplating here is a stormwater outlet for the future Belknap reconstruction project. And what we're trying to do is design a pipeline that'll carry water north to a sedimentation basin in the future here that will handle Belknap's water. It'll handle stormwater from that general area surrounding Belknap. And that's one of the watersheds that we have trouble with right now as far as we're under capacity. It's a combined sewer district. And this will offer extra capacity for that whole area. And eventually we'll have projects we can go in and use this as the ultimate outlet pipe so that we can try to provide relief for homes and businesses that have basement backups right now.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The motion carried.
Item 7.5 is approval of a land lease with Calvin Camp for hangar space number C4 at the Richard I. Bong Memorial Airport.
You've heard a motion approved to approve in the second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 7.6 is Public Works Director Getzman is recommending approval of agreement with Shamrock Landfill, Inc. to dispose of paper fiber waste at the landfill.
You've heard the motion and second. Discussion. Counselor McKenzie?
Yeah, just some questions. When I first saw this on the agenda, Jeff and Todd, I was kind of curious. I thought, man, we're going to be hauling stuff, filling up our landfills, and then I realized that it's a material that you're going to use in place of sand, clay as well. Will it take the place of clay? No, or just sand?
Just sand, Counselor, and really what the gist of the agreement is right now, we've been taking some of this material for the past few years. It's kind of a waste material. It's a short paper fiber. It comes from the paper plant. We use it as alternative daily cover, it's called. The DNR has approved us to use it in place of sand as daily cover over the trash. So what we've done is we've got an agreement here that'll allow us to take pretty much all of our cover now as this short paper fiber. And the agreement here with Shamrock calls for them to pay us per ton to deposit it at the landfill. We've got agreement with the DNR. We can use it as cover instead of sand. So rather than paying out, we quote here about $25,000 a year for sand, we can save most of that money and also make about just under $135,000 a year at the gate as far as taking this material and using it as cover. So it's about $160,000 swing or so for us at the landfill.
Great. How'd you talk him into doing that?
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Good opportunity for us.
Now, this isn't you're not eliminating the use of clay. I mean, why is it sometimes you're using sand and sometimes you're using clay for cover?
The clay is used in the liner of the cells, and it's also used as either an intermediate long-term cover or the final capping material. So it's a more impervious cover. As we're filling the landfill up and we put on cover every day, we have to use something that'll allow water to penetrate and go through. When the rainfall obviously hits the garbage, it's going to turn into leachate. And you don't want to be perching pools of water up in the layers of trash.
Mm-hmm.
So the clay would do that. It was impervious, so if you placed a layer of clay and had rainfall on it, it would sit there holding some of that water up. So that's the reason that the DNR calls for sand in the code as far as daily cover normally.
And the paper would disintegrate and compact as well?
It's pretty quickly biodegradable. It's kind of a wet, filmy stuff when it comes to us in the truck. So it spreads out, it covers the trash, holds it down, for a few days at a time when we need it to, and we keep filling over the top of that layer and recap it every day when we're done placing trash.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks. It makes sense. So thanks. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 8.1, Mayor Hagan is reappointing Chad Matujak to the Liability Claims Committee for another 3-year term expiring July 2015.
For a motion and second discussion, Councilor McKenzie?
Yeah, Mayor. How long have the people that are on the board now been there? Are they there? Have they been there more than 4 years, 8 years, 12 years? And does anybody else apply for these jobs?
I honestly can't answer that question. I'm not familiar with how long they've been there.
This fella here, he's for another 3 years. So how many 3-year terms, Frog? Do you know?
He's one of our newer members.
He's a newer member? Okay. And do you know how long that the people that are on the board have been there, and the length of time each one has been there?
There's 5 members. I couldn't sit here and come close guessing, I don't think, how long each member has been on that, been serving that committee.
Okay. All right. I was just curious.
Counselor Brown.
Yes, I was also curious about boards. Do they all have term limits?
Police and fire does.
Oh, you mean all of the boards?
Yeah.
How many terms?
Police and
Yeah,
fire.
how many terms
Police
can you
and fire
serve?
has-
Forever?
Counselor Bridge?
I don't think any of them have term limits. I think the council's had a policy that the PFC people only served 1 term to avoid influence by, chiefs of departments, but I don't think any of them by ordinance or statute have term limits.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
Item 10.1 is a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Superior appropriating the necessary funds for the operation of the general city government and the administration of the City of Superior for the year 2013 and authorizing and directing a tax levy to be spread on the tax roll of the City of Superior for the year 2012.
You've heard the motion in multiple seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10.2 is a resolution introduced by the Plan Commission setting a public hearing on December 18th in the boardroom of the Government Center to vacate and discontinue streets and alleys between 22nd and 23rd Avenues East and East 2nd and East 4th Streets.
You've heard the motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10.3 is a resolution introduced by the Plan Commission setting a public hearing December 18th to rezone property between 22nd and 23rd Avenues East and East 2nd and East 5th Streets from R3 Apartment Residential to C2 Highway Commercial District.
You've heard the motion and second to approve. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10.4 is a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Superior approving the transfer of property, execution of a development agreement, grant agreement, and lease agreements in connection with the General Mills Operation LLC project.
You've heard the motion in multiple seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10.5 is a resolution of the Common Council approving execution of a development agreement and grant agreement in connection with the Fraser Shipyards, Inc. project.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10.6 is a resolution of the City of Superior providing for the sale of approximately $1,235,000 taxable general obligation promissory note, Series 2012D.
Motion and second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 11.1 was failed under the consent agenda. 11.2 is an ordinance introduced by the Public Works Department amending the traffic code, disabled parking zones by adding 1111 Banks Avenue.
You've heard the motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
11.3 is an ordinance introduced by the Public Works Department amending the traffic code, disabled parking zones by adding 1807 Ohio Avenue.
You've heard the motion and second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 11.4 is an ordinance introduced by the Public Works Department amending the traffic code, disabled parking zones by adding 2015 Lambourne Avenue.
You've heard the motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 11.5 is an ordinance introduced by the Public Works Director, amending stormwater utility fees, increasing our ERU from 1907 to, I think we still need to, and that they adopted the recommendation, okay, to 2933 square feet, and streamlining the fee structure by combining the fixed rate and variable fees into one stormwater fee of $5.90 per month.
What is the pleasure? Heard the motion and second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
11.6 is an ordinance introduced by the Environmental Services Interim Administrator Roberts, amending Chapter 114 sewer usage, Section 62 user charge, increasing the variable sewer usage rate from $5.82 to $7.43 per CCF, and leave the fixed rate at $5.50 for a total increase in revenue of 19.88%.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
11.7 is an ordinance introduced by the Public Works Committee, amending the traffic code. No parking on odd side by deleting Weeks Avenue between North 6th and 7th Streets, and no parking on even side by adding Weeks Avenue between North 6th and 7th Streets.
What is the pleasure? Council, is there a motion?
I think they got that wrong. I think there's, it should be, yeah, no, that's right. No parking on the odd side. Yeah. Move for approval.
You've heard the motion and second to approve. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 11.8 is an ordinance introduced by the Public Works Committee, amending the traffic code. No parking on even side by deleting Clough Avenue between North 6th and 7th Streets, and no parking on odd side by adding Clough Avenue between North 6th and 7th Streets.
Move for approval.
Second.
Heard a motion and second to approve. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
We have one person signed up for business by public.
Mr. Flaherty?
Thank you, Mayor Hagan, Council. My name is Richard Flaherty. I live at 1505 East 10th Street here in town. I'm here with some of my neighbors tonight. We were here earlier this summer. We were affected. There's been a lot of talk about the storm and all the work that's going on, and we do appreciate the work to prevent this type of disaster in the future. We have some concerns as a group. And I'd like to share those, and I know that we may not be able to have any answers right now, but maybe I'd like to continue a discussion if at all possible. Some things that we're concerned about is when we talked to the Liabilities Claim Committee back this summer and made a claim, it was very clear that we stood apart from some of the other folks making some claims at that time. What happened was a storm sewer cap was, or excuse me, storm sewer, actually it was not storm sewer, but sewage sewer cap was removed. And when that was removed by a city worker, our basements flooded at that time. And we feel that that was clear negligence. But we received a letter from the committee lumping us in with the rest of the folks who made claims on that, saying that that was just caused by the water. Since that time, we've talked to Jackie Sternberg, and I appreciate you taking our call. We had some questions about that storm cap. She told us that she was advised not to speak about that or respond, and we're wondering why that would be the case, why she would be asked to do that. We also had an insurance adjuster sent to our homes to take claims for the damage that was done in our basements early on. We're wondering why that was done. right away when the water came up into our basement, so we have concerns about that. Earlier, we had made requests to meet with you, Mayor Hagan, not directly from myself, but through our group, and we haven't had a chance to do that, so we'd still like to have a chance to sit down and discuss that. We're at a point now where we're looking at taking a suit and would like to avoid that if at all possible, but we feel that our hands kind of been forced and would like to look at possible other ways of resolving our issues. So thank you.
Has that meeting been established? I didn't know about it.
No, it has not.
Okay, okay. Was the request put in?
There were requests made at times, and I did not make those myself. There were other parts of our group that had made those requests, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah, because I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll be happy to.
Thank you.
Any further business to come before this body? Councilor Brown?
Yes, in our packet, we got a thing from the Extension Office from Linda Bruce, and it's Poverty in Our Community, 2012 fact sheet. Poverty in the school, Superior School District. Homeless kids, K-12 or K4 through 12th grade. Homeless rate 208, 29, 127 students, 29 to 210, 147 students, 210 to 211, now 175 students, and 211 to 212, we now have 167 students that are homeless. Where are these homeless kids staying? 23 in shelters, 121 doubled up, and I don't know exactly what that means. 5 are staying in unsheltered cars, parks, campgrounds. 18 hotels, motels. You know, isn't that a tragedy in the city of Superior that we've got that many kids that are homeless and don't have places to stay? All I can say, if you know a kid that's staying in a car or in a tent or something, you let me know, because I'll make dang sure he's got a warm place to stay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Heard the motion second, we stand adjourned.